Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hello. Hi, Jill. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us. So good to see so many of you on video as well. This is a community movement, so it's always great to see the community. If you can, if you're comfortable, please do come on camera so we can see you. If not, no worries. But wonderful to have you all here. Thank you for joining us for the first Grapevine Giving Circle Speaker Series event. We're so excited to be kicking this off today, and there's no one better to be doing that with us than Joy Webb. So very excited to introduce Joy here in a moment and get us started. But first, just want to give you a quick intro to what this is all about. So the speaker series is a new monthly speaker series event featuring leading thinkers, practitioners, and industry experts. The goal is to have these as 45-minute sessions, so not too long. We'll do a brief intro and then a kind of fireside chat between Joy and myself for 30 minutes. And then we'll have 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. So you'll have a chance to answer some questions or to ask some questions of Joy. We're also planning to stick around for an extra 15 minutes. So we're very excited by the turnout today, and we're not exactly sure, since this is our first event, if we're going to be able to cover everything. And so we thought what we would do is, for those of you who would like to stay on, we'll kind of extend the Q&A for an extra 15 minutes, and maybe even use that as an opportunity to ask all of you for any thoughts on future topics or speakers that you would like us to bring to this series. So this is a series that is being offered to all giving circles across topics and locations on Grapevine. So it's also an opportunity for you to connect with others in the movement. So in that spirit, please do say hello in the chat. Maybe introduce yourself. And if you're in a giving circle or are thinking about joining a giving circle, mention that there as well. It'd be great to hear. At the end, we'll also have a poll where we will ask those of you who are attending if you'd like to be connected with another giving circle member for a one-on-one coffee chat, just as a way to connect with another like-minded person, explore how to best leverage your giving circle for local impact and your personal goals, whatever they may be. So before I jump into an intro of Joy, I do want to give a brief introduction of Grapevine. And so for those of you who are just joining and newer to the Grapevine community, I'm Emily Rasmussen. I'm the founder and CEO of Grapevine, and we are an online home and community for giving circles. We provide the infrastructure, tools, training, events, and more to support and scale the giving circle movement. For those of you who maybe are very new to the movement, just a quick recap: a giving circle is a very simple but revolutionary concept where a group of people come together. They pool their donations, and then they collaborate to decide where to give the total amount. Okay, and so this is a whole grassroots movement. We certainly did not invent it here at Grapevine. It was started by women, largely women across the country here in the US in the early 80s, and has been growing ever since. So where Grapevine comes in is we offer this all-in-one solution for giving circles to make it really easy for you to launch a new giving circle in just a few minutes. And whether you're just getting started or have been running a group for years, our tools like donation collection, charity receipting, community collaboration, and more really make it easy for you to do that. The last thing that I'll just say about this is we recently have started jumpstarting or launching new giving circles in communities and around causes where they didn't yet exist. So if you've recently received an invitation to a new group, this is part of that initiative, so welcome. We're really excited to have you joining this movement and becoming part of this whole networks with a purpose model, excuse me. Finally, if you want more information about a particular group that you have joined recently or thinking of joining, please do join me at my Friday office hours session. So that's on Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. You can learn more about the specific group that you're considering joining and get all of your questions answered there. And so maybe we can drop in the chat a link to the RSVP for those office hours. Okay, without further ado, I want to introduce our guest speaker today, Joy Webb. Joy is a community catalyst who believes a holistic, people-powered, community-driven approach to philanthropy is what will ultimately drive sustainable change and community transformation. So nearly a decade ago, Joy decided to leave a 15-year career in marketing for Fortune 500 brands like Capital One and Delta Airlines to focus exclusively on philanthropy. She launched the Circle of Joy Giving Circle, which focuses on supporting nonprofits, providing youth and education initiatives in Georgia. And they've raised over $100,000 for these programs to date. Joy has also served the Community Investment Network, a network of Black-led giving circles, for over a decade and has filled multiple roles there, including board member and secretary. In total, Joy has helped raise $3.6 million for programs in communities of color. She holds a BS from Florida A&M University and an MBA from the University of Phoenix. And while she has won numerous awards for her work over the years, I just want to call out one today. She was recently selected as one of the honorees for the Black Women Give Back list from Indiana University's Women Philanthropy Institute, which highlights 10 Black women philanthropists. So a really wonderful honor. Congratulations, Joy. And thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here. And I'm like, wow, 119 people just for me. I feel special. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Wonderful. Yeah, we're thrilled to have such a great community turnout for you, and no better person for them to be listening to as we're kicking off this series. Well, so maybe on that note, Joy, would you please just start us off by sharing a brief background on how you got involved in the Giving Circle movement, as well as how you started the Circle of Joy and became a leader of the Community Investment Network and the broader Giving Circle movement?
So I will share that I think I've always been a giver. I came from parents that are givers. My parents are both in education, and they've always been giving back to the community one way or another. My mom was trying to bring kids home. My dad was coaching, it's all of that. So that was kind of my lifestyle. I was a Girl Scout. I was a Girl Scout leader in college, etc. I guess about 15 years ago, I ended up, I was volunteering for Atlanta Public Schools and helping some kids. We had, after the program was over, we were at a pizza party and it was a celebration. So at that celebration, there was another guy there who was visiting one of the leaders for the celebration, who was over the program. She was having a party later on, but he came and he was talking and sharing. We were talking about all the volunteer stuff. And I guess we were like, hey, I do this and I do this. And he mentioned a giving circle. And I had never, ever heard of a giving circle, didn't know what it was, didn't know what he was talking about, but I'm inquisitive, maybe even called nosy sometimes. And so I asked him, what's a giving circle? And he said, it's when a group of people give their time, talent, and treasure to communities and causes that they, feel passionate about to be the change that they want to see. And I thought that's simple enough. And I'm just cocky enough to say I can do it too. So I decided that I wanted to do something like it, especially because he mentioned that he was part of a network of giving circles, which was Community Investment Network. And so for me, it was like, oh, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can just, I can follow their instructions. It's people that are already doing this. And so from there, I was actually invited to a leadership series that CIN, Community Investment Network, was doing to share a little bit more about it. To the point that they said, come join us. It's in North Carolina. And I said, okay, sure. And then I was told it was like the following week. And I was like, my schedule, what am I going to do? How am I going to get there? All these different things. And they were like, it's okay, just come. So I felt good in my heart, but I didn't know these people. So I called my mom and I said, I hope this isn't a cult, because it could have been. But I really, really, really did drink the Kool-Aid once I went and I met other like-minded people who were doing things in their communities and sharing what they had done and what relationships they had built over the years. So I was full steam ahead. I'm going to start something in Atlanta, Georgia. I got to start something. I was just really passionate about it. I came home and shared with everybody I knew. And the Circle of Joy was founded with friends and family who were crazy enough to believe what I said or just trust that, okay, Joy wants to do it. We'll try it for a little while. but now 15 years later, we're still going strong. We give every other year. We lead with our talent. We lead with our treasure, and we follow with our time and our talent, because we do not want people to think that, hey, philanthropy is just, or philanthropists are just, rich white men with big checks. We want to actually show them that it is the love of mankind. It is the love of humankind. And so we do that intentionally by sharing that check, but we also are there and walking hand in hand with them to help them with the causes and the things that they are trying to do to change the world, because we want to be there to support them, because we know that they are doing the hard work and the heart work. So that's how I kind of got involved with basically CIN and the Circle of Joy. I started Circle of Joy because I was cocky and I said I could do it. And I was really passionate about, like, wow, it's other people out here doing these things. I got to get more involved. So that's how I got really engaged with the Community Investment Network, eventually being a board member, and working through meeting people all over the United States that were doing this, from North Carolina to Denver to Texas to New York to DC. And so I was like, wow, this is really a movement. It really is bigger than just the Circle of Joy. And I could learn from them to learn, hey, this is, I'm doing it like this in Birmingham. Maybe you can look at it like this in Atlanta, or maybe not. Maybe that's not what you want to do, because we have some learned lessons because we're a little older than you, type of thing. So that's kind of the, 5-minute spiel on how I got in this space, because I did not grow up thinking I want to do this. I went to school for graphic design, so I'm real artsy fartsy. And so this is a different track, but I love it and I wouldn't change it for anything.
That's great. Thank you so much, Joy. And so many quotable moments, I feel, in the talks I've heard you give, but I love that one, doing the hard work and the heart work, these nonprofits in the communities. And also, just as you were saying there a moment ago, how you were connecting with so many other people doing this work in different communities. And that leads me to a second question I wanted to ask you, which is, this approach that you have to not only your own work with your giving circle, but engaging others in giving, and really thinking about meeting people where they are. I just wonder if you can share a little bit more on that ideology and how giving circles.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. I really do feel like you meet people where they are, and that's the community, and that's the giving circle members, right? Because we're all coming together as a giving circle. I'll speak from that perspective. We're coming from different avenues, right? So people have jobs, they have children, they have husbands, they have lots of things going on. This is just a piece of their philanthropic profile. They might give to their churches, they might give to their other spiritual, religious things, they might give to sororities, fraternities, other causes that they're really intentional about. But this is one that has that like-mindedness, that strategic, that intentional giving. And so when you do that, you meet people where they are, you have a giving circle and you have a forgiving circle, because the reality is we all are busy. And so this is volunteer at best, right? This is not another job, and you don't want it to feel like another job as a giving circle. You want people to have fun with it. You want them to be able to provide some resources and collective giving thoughts and their strategies for the community to help better the community. And you want them to be able to build relationship with community. So you meet people where they are, you do that in your giving circle, and you also do that with the organizations that you might partner with, being that they are probably, they're doing the hard work, and they're tired. They're very tired. They're working really hard to do these things. So the way that you meet them is show up, right? Be intentional, be in the spaces and the places that they're in. Let them know that they are being seen. Everybody wants to be seen. Let them know that you see them, and how you support them is, walking with them hand in hand, providing funds and resources, maybe even connecting them with other resources. And so that is, it's really about building that base relationship, how we built everything from business to community to church to, anything, friendships. That relationship matters. And so when you get that in your giving circle, you have a more sustainable giving circle. And when you get that with relationships in community, you also have a better track record to build community, because you have lots of people and partners working together to better the world.
I love that, Joy. And I feel like you kind of touched upon this, but maybe if you could just share a little bit more specifically about how giving circles not only help create community, but create more equitable communities.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, the reality is, like I said, everybody wants to be seen, and we can move forward together, but we can do that. We go further together when we do it together, right? We know that if we are trying to do something alone, we're not going to get that far. But if we work with community and we listen to community, I always say community knows what community needs. When you go to these nonprofits, they're already doing the work. They're listening to their community because they're providing that service for the community. You all can be a champion for that work by being there, by listening, by then taking the words that they say and actually putting them into action, into saying, hey, we can help you. And that's a different way to partner, but it's really being really clear that we hear you, we see you, and we want this to work. And so that makes it actually be manageable and not just equitable. It makes it a world, a better way, a better place for everybody. And it makes the relationship feel like it's not a caste system. It is really peer-to-peer, because you're really coming in like, I'm going to be a partner. And I always say partner, I don't say grantee, because once again, this is us working together to make a better world. And that's what it's all about. You will have like-minded people in your giving circle. You will be could be having relationships with organizations that are trying to better the community. So there is no I'm better than you. And you also don't want people to feel like you're coming in to save them. They're doing the work. They're going to do the work, whether you give them the money or the time or the talent, because they have already committed to doing the work. So we as giving circles can come in and really be supportive and be champions and be allies and be advocates and be advertisements for these organizations that are doing this great work.
Love that. Thank you, Joy. And I know we had some people submit some questions in advance today, and there are a number of questions about this, about connecting with community and respecting the community. And so some of these might come up in our Q&A as well. We can dig in further there, but that's wonderful. I'm wondering, Joy, just to take a little bit of a different perspective on the Giving Circle experience that you've had. We've heard from a lot of people as they've been joining these giving circles, and even people who've been in them for a long time, the value of the connections that people have made with the other members of the group, right? And how personally satisfying that has been, and how even professionally valuable that has been for some people. I know you've made a big transition from your previous corporate life into the philanthropic world. And so I just wonder if you can share a little bit more about how your personal and professional network has developed by being a part of the Giving Circle, and maybe even if you have any advice for others on the call who may want to develop their own networks while participating in this movement as well.
I will definitely say that it has changed my world, right? Clearly, I'm not in corporate America. I do this. I literally talk about collective giving all day long, or I could at least. But what I would say is, because we all have various things happening in our lives. So you have lawyers, doctors, teachers, preachers, entrepreneurs, moms, stay-at-home moms, inventors, all these different things. We all come together because we're like-minded in this giving circle model to be intentional to help our community. So you get to build those relationships and meet people where they are. Again, if we're going to build a house, we're going to build a house together. And I don't care if you a lawyer or a doctor or, a rock star. Right now, we're here to build the house. And so we build that baseline relationship. It's not about who are you and what do you have. It's about how can we help this community. So I am a connector. I love to connect people and connect the dots in relationships and in this movement. And so I'm always very curious to know, like, how did I get to meet the mayor of Birmingham? We still have the same, we both were in giving circles. Oh, that's really cool. Okay. And then the chief of staff in Denver, how does that work? Because I didn't meet them at their job to say, hey, what can I do for you? Or how can I help? Or what kind of relationship we have? We have another relationship that is strictly with community. So I know that they have a love for community, like I have a love for community. And they also have a philanthropic, they really want to be intentional. And so in the leadership that I have been privy to be a part of, and then also just meeting new people and learning new things, from different organizations like Grapevine, like Philanthropy Together, like all of the networks that are part of Philanthropy Together, and other Giving Circle people. We all come together from different lenses. And so when we get to hear those different lenses, we get to learn and grow together. We get to have different leadership skills. You get to test those skills out. I talk to college students all the time and say, hey, you can be a trendsetter. Have a Giving Circle on your college. You can lead with your time and your talent. You don't have to lead with your treasure. Let's be intentional, right? How does this work? You are a leader if you are out here, figuring out how you're going to be connected to community, how you're going to engage with community, how you're going to bring other people in to this work. You're doing something totally different than anybody else on the campus. And guess what? People will look at you for that because you are a leader in your own way. And so all of those skills, even the things that you are practicing learning to be a better leader, you can do that in your Giving Circle.
Love that. Thank you. Yeah, it's such a positive, pro-social, positive experience to go through, right? With, as you said, like-minded people, that so many amazing, wonderful things can come out of it. So I wonder if, well, sorry, I want to jump to Q&A here in a minute, but before we do that, I wanted to just ask if you had any parting words of advice for people here, either as you were just talking about how to think about their Giving Circle experience as a way to feed into their personal and professional goals, or as really much more broadly, how participating in this Giving Circle movement, makes us stronger together, and how people can really be proactive about the impact side of their work and the community building side. So yeah, any parting words of advice for our community members here before we jump into Q&A and hear from them directly?
What I will say is start where you are. So you don't have to, it sounds great. I have 100 women that want to do this and we're going to go and change the world in our community, but maybe you don't have 100 women. Maybe you have 10, maybe you have 20. Start where you are. Your impact will still be impactful to that community, because what I know for sure is, because of my lived experiences and the circles that I've had the opportunity to engage with, is you may not think your impact is big, but that organization that you are able to provide services for or resources will be over the moon with the resources that you have. And just that, like I said, people want to be seen. And these nonprofits that are doing the work and working and grinding every day, they may not get seen like the bigger nonprofits. And so for you to take the time to listen, to hear about their mission, their vision, and be able to be a part of their movement, it makes the world better. It makes you, it's almost like instant gratification. And I'll say this, my mom is a part of my Giving Circle. And so she's like a retired school teacher in her 70s. And she said, I always had to give my money to a certain organization in my check. Like I had to give 2% of this and 3% of this. And that's how it worked in the school system. That's what we did. We just gave to some nonprofit. They told us who we were giving to, Red Cross. Okay, they get my money. I didn't know where that went. I didn't know what happened with that money. She said, the Giving Circle, we are strategic, we're intentional, we have like-minded people, we know who we're going to give to. It's almost like instant gratification. And I know we're like a microwave society, but it is really, really, really soothing to the heart to know that that money that you all have raised or collected, or that time and that talent that you all are going to give to community, you can see it. You don't have to ask people for, 45 pages or their child's first blood, like other nonprofits and grants, foundations ask for with grants, because you can see the work if you're right there walking hand in hand with them. You can see the initiatives. You can see what they've done for a community. You can listen to community and see what is needed. I think that a lot of times we get stuck on the process, and the process is to just do the good work. You will find your tribe, your folks, your co-conspirators. They will come together, and you like-minded people will indeed change the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joy. Yes, Michelle, fantastic, Joy. Thank you. Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your experience. I know we have questions in the room, so I do want to get to those. So I think what we'll do, because we are such a large group, is just have you go ahead and drop questions into the chat for Joy, and then we can pull them out for her. That's probably the easiest thing to do. And so please go ahead and think about a question. If you have any, drop it in the chat. While you're doing that, though, I might just start us off here, Joy, because we did have some people submit questions in advance. So I'll kick us off with one of those questions. And one of those is from one of our newer members to the Giving Circle movement and to philanthropy broadly. And she says, I'm new to philanthropy. Are there any do's and don'ts? Anything you can share on that for this new participant in philanthropy and giving circles?
I too was new when I started this. I was new and I was green. The first time we gave money, nobody wanted to take our money. And I didn't understand why you didn't want to take our money. Like if somebody wanted to give me thousands of dollars, I would be like, here's my checking account. I think one of the things I will share is listening. I mean, trust is a huge, huge thing, especially in philanthropy. Trust-based philanthropy is extremely important in giving circles as well, because you have to build relationships with the organizations that you're going to be partnering with. You need to do that. And trust-based philanthropy is important. People don't trust. People, what's the catch? You know, you're going to give me $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. What do I have to do? I'm sure there's a catch. And a lot of times it's not a catch, but they have to be able to trust you. They have to be able to understand that you are real and that you are not going to get them for anything or take their story or take their vision and do something totally different with it, because they are trying to do the work. And a lot of times they don't have the time to do all of the research and all of that stuff. So it's a process. I don't want you all to feel like, you know, hey, I was really, really, really disappointed the first year of our circle, because I was just like, I don't understand people that are thinking I'm real. They think it's a gimmick. Now, what I will say 15 years later is I have people calling me, talk about Joy. You're with the Circle of Joy, right? You have money, you have things, we can work together. But that wasn't always the case. And so as you continue to do the work, show up in community, don't always lead. You don't always have to lead with your money. You can be there and just listen. You can be there, give them your time, give them your talent. I didn't mention one thing that's really important. There's lots of T's. You got time, talent, testimony. It leads to the testimony because you got giving from both ways. You have touches, you have tides. There's lots of T's that happen in this world, right? But it's important that we stay focused on making sure that our good intentions are really, really there for the community. And then we don't get to the point where we can't really go back to the core. For giving circles, I always talk about the shared values. If you use your shared values and your collective values, and that's helping your communities that you're going to work with or your partners that you're going to work with because they are doing the things that you want to see the change in the world, I think you'll be just fine. So start where you are and always make sure you know your why.
That's a great one. Yeah, know your why. Why are you getting involved? I know our friends at Philanthropy Together, they do a lot of training for new giving circle leaders, and they always talk about that. Start with your personal why. Let that be a guide. So I have another question here that I think is kind of a great next question after that last one, which is how to ensure respect of the community when we give. And specifically, what are some criteria by which we can make decisions regarding our giving to nonprofits? So I know giving circles there are a variety of ways that giving circles decide where to give, right? Which nonprofits to support. But this is a question that we at Grapevine get a lot from new giving circle members and leaders. And there seems to be a little bit of like wanting to learn how it's done and maybe a little apprehension around doing it incorrectly. So yeah, curious how you would respond to these questions, Joy, to help them.
So what I will say is, once again, you go with that giving and forgiving circle, right? You're going to try it. You might not get it right the first time. But I will say, build that trust, listen to community. Also, don't make it a job. If you make it a job, you will lose people. You will lose people who are interested in getting money from you, if you make it like crazy, it's going to be crazy. Make it really something that everybody can benefit from. And when I say that, that means maybe you don't have a 4-page RFP. How do they actually submit? Possibly it's a video. Possibly you all meet in a coffee shop and just have a conversation and say, what do you need? How can we help? And you all figure out what that is. You all can chart your own course. There are no rules. The only rule is that you actually make an impact and build community from your collective giving and your collective resources, and sharing your time, talent, and treasure. But you create how you do that. You can do it every 2 years. You can do it every month. You can do it every week. Don't wear yourself out, because you can burn yourself out because you're so excited and so passionate. I get it. But also this is a long game. You want to make sure that you're able to stay engaged with community and have a greater impact by understanding that a giving circle is not a fundraiser. It's not one time, one and done. This is something that will be continuous. The circle never ends. So we want to make sure that you all don't end. You eat your Wheaties and drink your Gatorade so you can stay in this game. So you can stay helping and being a champion for your community.
That's great. Yeah, it's one of the things that I think the Giving Circle movement is so powerful because of this, where you have the opportunity to make a real big difference, right, by pooling your resources, but also, as you say, Joy, by making up the game how you want it to be, right? So you don't have to require nonprofits to go through some really robust and onerous processes to apply or to report out on impact. And so the ability for you to make an outsized impact also while preserving the nonprofit's ability to keep focused on their work is really powerful, and is one of the really wonderful parts of this model. I did see a question come in the chat here, which is about measuring the impact and success of your efforts across all the organizations that you support. So how do you do that? This is from Jess Fruit. Sorry, apologies if I mispronounced that. And then what's important for your giving circle to know things are working?
So with my giving circle, and I share this with others, like I always talk about, like, don't just drop off a check and be like, I'm out, peace. The way we measure is a lot in storytelling. We do have numbers. We can see how, if I help with a programmatic piece, I can see what happened with that piece. But also because we're walking hand in hand, if they say they need volunteers, if they need a strategic plan, if they need some marketing, we're there. So we see it. It's not like I'm asking for a report in 6 months because I need to know what you did and how you did it. I'm physically, you said this is what you needed. We're here for you. What do you need? We are here. We are your community. So that is how we can see it. We don't even, we can measure the success and we can get the matrix, all of that, but we can physically see the impact because we are part of the change. Because you know what? Hey, we know that we want to build a bigger resource center. And so now we have 15 more people that are help building that engine for that resource center. Or we know that, kids need at this shelter need more clothes. So we help with the food drive, and we help with the clothing drive, and we manage it for you. Or you know what? It would be nice for our kids to feel like they were at home. They live in a foster care and we have a group home, but it doesn't look like the holidays around here. So we show up and we decorate, and we make that house feel like a home for those kids. So being intentional and just showing up is really impactful. But you also can get those numbers because you can see them. You also have storytelling, because a lot of times with the smaller nonprofits, they may not have, somebody to do all the things, all the pieces, fill out reports, do this, do that, make grants, do the work, find the resources, everything. So you also can gather stories, which also are very impactful.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been seeing with the Grapevine circles that we've been starting more recently is that the having the previous grantee, the nonprofit recipient of funds, as you said, I think partner, community member, come back into your next event, your next gathering with your Giving Circle members to just share what they're doing with those funds, right? It doesn't have to be a big impact report, but as Joy is saying, the story. And when you're giving in such a local way or such a focused way, you're so connected to these organizations because maybe they're doing something there right in your community, or you're involved in whatever it is, so that you actually can see that impact much more clearly than any, impact report and I don't know, end of year summary can provide. So yeah, those stories are being so important.
And it also helps that because we have a mission, we have a vision, we have our target audience. We've had the opportunity to be able to connect some of our past partners together so that they can build community together. Or even some people that are interested in funding from the Circle of Joy that might not get funding, we have resources. So it's not about, hey, we couldn't give you, the $1 trillion that you needed. But I can tell you about an organization that's 10 years older than you that can give you so many nuggets that will help you grow and learn. So those types of things also help build community, and they help change the impact story of organizations because they are now being, they have some seeds that are being sown into them.
Love that. Yeah, you get a community of supporters when you, as a nonprofit, engage with a giving circle, right? And it could be new volunteers, new board members, new direct donors, partners. All of those things can come and often do come from the giving circle collaboration. There's a really great question, Joy, in the chat from, I think it's Rosina Startsman. And Rosina asks, what types of activity do you suggest for the giving circle, pinpointing or finding their aligned interests? Oftentimes there are so many different organizations that members from various backgrounds want to pitch. Any advice?
So we did, and the Community Investment Network oftentimes we definitely work with the shared values, right? So the collective values. So even if you think about different things like why do you give? Like if I'm going to make it very, very simple, individually, why do you give? And then you have your group of people and you look at, hey, I give because of ABC and they give because of CDG, whatever. You figure out what those shared resources, those shared values are, dig a little deeper, figure out if you can go a little bit, a little bit more intentional, or you figure out, hey, you know what, we're new to this. We want to give to community. And that's what our value is going to be. We're going to give to community. We're going to be very broad. And so therefore we might have, because we're so new, we don't want to get stuck. We want to just be able to give to community. And so maybe we have 3 different structures in that. Maybe one quarter we're giving to girls and women, one we're giving to homeless, one we're giving to youth. You could do, once again, I always say, chart your own course. Because you have to make sure that everybody is aligned in the giving circle. Because if you don't, it's like one squeaky wheel or just one place out of scope. It'll change that whole circle and that whole dynamic and that whole culture. So you want to make sure everybody is aligned with the values. And a lot of times when you just start with really looking at your own individual values and figuring out what is some shared values, that's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah. And again, our friends at Philanthropy Together do a great shared values exercise with some new giving circles. So there's some great tools out there to help you with this. But even, in the simplest form, right? You can go online and find a list of values and then ask your members to each circle or share what are their top 3 values that are informing how they give. Mm-hmm. And then you can discuss and find the overlapping ones. Maybe as a group, you don't all decide that as a group you can align on one area to fund, but maybe there are several others that you can align on, and that's where you focus as a group. Yeah, great. So I think I had one other question here I wanted to pull up, Joy. So here's another one that was actually submitted in advance. This is a question about, well, I'll just read it out. Being hands-on with listening ears for a diverse community seeking access and opportunity. So it looks like, how do you engage with a community that is seeking access and opportunity? How do you support that? Sorry, I'm trying to summarize it here because I realize this is a bit of a sentence fragment, but how do you engage with a group? I think that the broader question here, Joy, is when you're in community with people, but there's still, some groups seeking funding from you and maybe not receiving funding. How do you manage that part of it? So if organizations have requested funding and haven't received it, or have been part of your shortlist and haven't received funding, do you have any recommendations for how to handle that so you can still stay in community with organizations and maybe help them develop a bit to where they could be recipients of funding in the next round? There's just that decision process. There is a attention there, right, to the community building dynamic, I guess. And so curious how you handled that.
So you still show up, right? You still build relationships because relationships matter. You connect them where you can. So I've had the opportunity. So I work with giving circles, but everything that I do, I bring in a collective giving resource, right? So I've had the honor to work with Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, which had given $2.2 million last year to Black-led organizations that helped Black women in the South. Um, I was intentional in sharing the values of the giving circle and the collective resources that we've used in how we do that grant, so that it was more of a community grant, and we listened to what the organizations were doing instead of pulling a 8-page document for you to fill out and give all of the references of the world. Instead of doing the work, you got to spend 8 days on a document that you may or may not get the grant for, right? So what happens after that is, hey, everybody doesn't get in.
Yeah.
But if you have community resources, whether that's a relationship that you can actually have some, we'll give feedback. Our grants, we'll talk to the organizations, we'll connect them with other organizations that can help, or can help them aspire to the next level, or share some tips and tricks on what they can do. If it was just too broad, or if it was just, I always want to give to everybody. Our circle, we're getting better. 15 years in, we're finally figuring it out. But we started off like, we want everybody to win. But we also need to make sure that there's impact in that also. So with that being said, maybe it's a resource, maybe it's a relationship. There's always something you can do. Maybe it's just volunteering, right? I couldn't give you, the funds that you needed, but you know what, you have 4 activities a year. We're going to do that. Or, you know what, you need some help with your social media, and we have somebody who has a marketing firm. We're going to be able to offset, something, or let you have a consultation for free with this marketing firm. So those types of things can also help build relationships for a community and also help them leverage it. Another thing that the Giving Circle does with the grants is we also help elevate those organizations so they can go after bigger grants or different grants, because they've had the opportunity to win. Sometimes you need a win. These organizations are working hard. They need a win. So if you can help them with that win, you can also help them get another win by saying, hey, somebody was big and bold to fund us. You should too. That oftentimes helps.
That's great. That's a great point too, Joy. We've often heard that too, where a nonprofit will get a grant from a giving circle, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a big giving circle, right? It could even be, a few $1,000s. But that is such a great, it's like vouching for that nonprofit. And that has enabled many nonprofits to then go on to that next level of grant applications successfully. So wonderful, thank you. I know that often comes up with new members and leaders of giving circles, how to navigate that. But I love that point. There's always some give, right? Whether it's an introduction, feedback, volunteering, something that you can do to support in that broader way. Joy, thank you so much. This has been a very rich, full discussion in the last 44 minutes of our time together. Wonderful. We covered so much, and you've done so much for the movement, and helping us to grow it and support it. And so thank you for your time and for helping us kick off the series. For those of you who are still on the call with us, we're going to stay on for an extra 15 minutes. If you'd like to stay on to ask additional questions, and even to just share some thoughts with us about what more you would like to hear about in this speaker series going forward. But Joy's going to stay on as well. She's happy to chat with you. Before you go, we do have a couple of quick polls. So Jean, if we could just go ahead and launch those polls. Would love to get your quick feedback on this event and how you heard about us. And then would also love to know if you're interested in connecting with another fellow member of the Giving Circle movement. So part of what we do here at Grapevine is not only support new giving circles to get started and grow and connect with each other, but also increasingly to just build this broader community across giving circles. So let us know here if you're interested. Wonderful. We'll follow up with you and we'll connect you with another Giving Circle member to chat with. with that, I will say thank you. If you have to jump, of course, I know we had 45 minutes scheduled. Thank you for being here. Feel free to jump. Otherwise, please do stay on and feel free to raise your hand or drop in the chat any questions for Joy or for us at Grapevine that you might have. Lots of people wanting to connect, I see, coming in the poll. That's great. We'll be following up with you soon. Thank you. Maybe I'll start the second part for those of you who are able to stay on and just ask you, is there another type of event in addition to inviting speakers like Joy that you would find helpful? Speakers or networking events or workshops, anything like that that you think would be helpful as you're getting started or expanding your own Giving Circle journey?
Hi, this is Rosalind from Baton Rouge. Sorry about my husband's picture being up. I tried to remove it. I'm like, this man is with me no matter where I go. Anyway, one of the things that I think, especially with newness, is to see how far we've come. Having events where maybe we would host the Where Are They Now, some of the organizations that the ladies have actually blessed to have, you know, someone come on and represent and just tell how this network changed their lives would be encouraging to others. I'm a pastor's wife, and you know, when we pour into people, they want to see our fruit. And sometimes the fruit that we bear speaks more than any words we can say. So being able to share those fruit and let people see just how impactful this organization is, spotlighting, you know, families, organizations, you know, women of color, whoever we reach, you know, we've got so much going on in our world that we can be impactful on. You know, I would love to see some of the witness of what you guys have already been doing. And Joy, I thoroughly enjoyed you today. You are a blessing to God's people, and this organization is a blessing. So that's just my little Sunday speech.
Thank you.
Great, Rosalind. Thank you. Yeah, Joy, I love that idea for a whole future event, but I'm also wondering if you have any just examples off the top of your head of an organization that has just had just been extremely impacted by a Giving Circle grant and broader support. Any examples?
I will say this, as you said that, Rosalind, we did for our 5th birthday, we invited our past grantees, and they just talked about what they had done, what their growth had been, right? And we were part of it, but it wasn't about us. It was just really for them to actually shine, because we don't want to, you know, bastardize the whole thing, right? We don't want them to feel like they're on the spotlight and now they have to dance. We want them to actually be able to share what they're doing for community. But I will say our last grantee, it was a Brown Toy Box, which is a toy company. Literally, she was doing subscriptions for kids, STEM and STEAM, for African-American kids to see themselves, or for kids to see African-Americans in these actual fields. And now she is physically in Target. She has toys in Target. So to be on her journey, to be somebody who was there and helping her pass out subscription boxes to the kids. We adopted a school, everybody got a box, and so they got to play and learn at the same time. But now to see where she is in Target, on Amazon and Walmart, and having representation of African Americans or people of color in the STEM field, so kids can see and touch and play, that's amazing to me.
That's great, thank you. Anyone else on the call actually who's in a Giving Circle that has a specific high impact experience to share? I realize we have so many members here.
I saw Faith had her hand up, and I know she has impact because she always has impact.
There you are. You want to?
Hi, thank you. Thanks so much, Joy. I mean, between the two of us, Faith and Joy, we could get it done. So I'm a member of 2 Giving Circles, one very traditional. We focus on STEM programs for girls and young women in Northern Virginia. We've been around for, I think we're going on our 9th year, and we give grants that are $10,000 and up. So it's a very established, it's the Business Women's Giving Circle run out of the Community Foundation. And then I run a very grassroots organization called Social for Good. which we truly embrace the time, talent, and treasure aspect of what Joy talked about, where every month we support a different nonprofit. And our goal is really to educate, empower, and engage our members to really understand what's happening in the community and understand the needs of the local families, women, children in our area. So every month, I feel like we've done like the best project ever. This month, we're focused on period poverty, which is a huge issue. And one of the things that I had put in the chat is I would love to see if there's an opportunity for giving circles across Grapevine to address a systemic issue like period poverty, where people are really in crisis, where helping women, or diaper need awareness, where many of us are mothers and understand that that's a challenge. But I think that there'd be a great opportunity to kind of think outside the box on how we could spread this kind of issue nationwide and have Grapevine magnify not only the issue, but also the giving circles that are addressing it, and no matter how they decide to do it. So I'm just putting that out there as my out of the box idea for the day.
Love it. Thank you so much, Faith, for sharing and for that great idea. Maybe we can even get some larger matching donation dollars involved to help amplify the gifts from all the giving circles. That's a great one. We'll add it to our list. Thank you. Let's see. I'm seeing some other things being dropped in the chat. Anything, Jane, that you wanted to lift up?
I think it's Tanae Watson. I think you had a question. Do you want to unmute yourself? If you're still there.
Hi, I'm still here, Jane. Thanks. Yes, my name is Tania, and I was interested in knowing the giving circles that are created, are they required to be nonprofits in order to give? And then also the organizations that receive the funds, are they required to be nonprofits?
Who wants to take it? Anybody can take it. No. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, Joy, maybe I'll just jump in and turn it over to you. So Tania, you do not need to be a nonprofit to start a giving circle, or you do not need to set up a nonprofit infrastructure. Grapevine actually is an organization that allows you to start a giving circle on our platform, and we have all of that charitable infrastructure in place for you so that you can still invite your members into your giving circle. They can make donations and we'll send them the charitable tax receipts. So it's all still philanthropic, and then the money will be granted to the nonprofits once you decide where to send it. So it really takes a lot of the really hard work and time and effort that giving circle leaders have been putting in for decades in this movement. It really reduces the amount of administrative work and effort required. So you certainly don't need to set up a nonprofit to start a giving circle. You can just go to grapevine.org, little plug there, and you can start one easily. Currently, if you're using Grapevine, you do need to grant money to a 501c3 nonprofit or a fiscally sponsored project of a 501c3 nonprofit. So that is how our platform is set up to support giving circles. However, and maybe this is where I'll turn it over to Joy to talk a little bit more, but in the broader giving circle movement, there are many different types of giving circles. Most of them are supporting nonprofits, 501c3s, and fiscally sponsored projects. But there are some that are actually supporting 501c4s or individuals, like the Awesome Foundation, where you can give to an individual or a project, so it's not a charitable entity, or even political causes and candidates. So this model is being applied to a much broader range of causes beyond charitable organizations. I don't know, Joy, if you had any experience or examples to share.
You summed it up. Please don't start a nonprofit for a giving circle. That's my plug. I mean, it's lots of nonprofits, and nonprofits are great, but we don't need another. And because of the work that we're trying to do, we're trying to help those that are doing the work. So it's a different angle. And so it takes a lot to do a nonprofit. And so don't feel like you have to do all of that. It's going to take a lot to do a giving circle. So if you get to do the nonprofit and the giving circle, something's going to give. Probably the giving circle, because you're going to pay for the nonprofit. So I would say don't do that. Grapevine is an excellent resource to jumpstart this and get it moving. and also fiscal agents and fiscally sponsored, all of that stuff. It's real nonprofit-y talk and philanthropy talk and all of that stuff, but basically somebody just has to vouch for you. And so there are a lot of programs and projects that if you have an agent, if you have a, let's say a smaller community-based project and they were not a 501c3, there's probably an agency that can vouch for them, because if they have gotten any money before, they're going to have to get it from these organizations to help offset, the cost. So this is just kind of the legalities of it all, but it definitely is something that there are many ways to make sure that you have an impact to community. Don't let 501c3 be the one that sticks at you where you can't give.
Thank you, Joy. Yes. Janaea, I hope that answered your question. If you have any more specific follow-ups on like the legal side of things, as Joy just mentioned, feel free to reach out directly to us at Grapevine. We're happy to answer your questions. And if we're not the right solution for you, we're happy to find a fiscal sponsor or some other agent to support you. We've done that with lots of groups too that want to do more of the programming side of things. Ray, I saw you had your hand up. Did you want to unmute and share a question?
It's really not a question. It's more of a comment, getting back to thinking outside of the box. So I say I run a quote unquote nonprofit. It's really a foundation to keep my granddaughter's memory alive, to give back in the community. So that's how all of it started. So Tanea, think outside the box. Like I own a gift basket business. All of our gift baskets go to a nonprofit. They are designed specifically for that nonprofit, and the sale of each one of those baskets goes directly to them. That all came about because I'm an extreme couponer and I like to do it. It's fun. I'm retired. I mean, I can do that, right? But it's a way to give back. And people go crazy over saving $50, $60, $75. And when you put them up for an auction, women like us in a silent auction will buy them because they're going back for a bigger cause. So don't always think that you're little, right? Our little that we have, our 10% that we're supposed to give away biblically, that God's economy is not going to stretch it. So remember what he gave you. That's what I'm saying to each one of us. Remember what he gave you back to that time and the talents. He wants to increase those. That's what we're for, is to give that little bit so that all of us connected can give 100% more.
Thank you,
That's
Ray.
all I got.
That's good. Thank you for those thoughts. Yeah, I think the time, talent, treasure, and ties, we keep coming back to that in this session. And it's so nice to remember, the treasure is important. It's critical to support the work, but there are these other elements to support as well. And it's really through this community model that that often you get the full benefit and power of all of those things working together. So I know we're just at time, and I'm sorry, Heather, I see this great comment in the chat. I have a lot of ideas on ways to help the community. We want to hear them. So we will make sure to reach out to you, Heather, or you can email us at community@grapevine.org, and anyone else who's on this call, any additional thoughts, feedback you have for us, please be in touch. We want to hear from you. You can also join those weekly Friday office hours that I mentioned at the top of the call. I do those every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. I think, Jane, maybe we can drop the link into RSVP for those, if that's okay, into the chat. There you go. Thank you. So feel free to drop in there as well. And otherwise, thank you again so much for being here. Thank you, Joy, for kicking off this new series and for sharing all of your great experience and advice.
No problem.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed it. Thank you all for coming and staying, and for Grapevine for making this platform be accessible to all so that we can all grow and learn and be better together and change the world together. I
love that. On that wonderful note, thank you. Have a great day. Hopefully we'll see you at the next one. Bye.